From the CBS4 Sports Studio in Northwest Gainesville, here's Gainesville Game Day. Sponsored by G. Bradley Insurance Agency, the right team for all of your insurance needs. Now, here's Gainesville Sun columnist Pat Dooley and CBS4's own Sarah Cardona.
Okay, welcome into another edition of Gainesville Game Day. I'm Pat Dooley, the sports columnist of the Gainesville Sun, along with Sarah Cardona from CBS4. And, you know, you've only been here a couple of weeks and already you've seen some weirdness going on.
I tell you, I really have. And my first hurricane, getting to experience all that, it's definitely been a wild one.
Yeah, it has been. And it was a wild start to the football season with Florida playing a game, then not playing a game, and now they're going to play a game. And what we saw over the weekend was amazing with so many upsets, the SEC especially. There
were some embarrassing losses for the SEC, but they had their top 6 ranked teams go 6-0, yep. And they outscored their opponents 219-50. So I still think they had a great day.
Well, it looks like it may be a top-heavy league this year.
Definitely.
And that's fine. The middle teams aren't very good. And we'll get to them because now it's time for us to go around the Southeast.
It's time for Around the Southeast, sponsored by Skyfrog Tree Service.
All right, first off, and I spent all day watching football at my dad's house over in St. Augustine, so I saw all of these games, but who had a worse loss? Was it FSU or Tennessee? Now, Tennessee not only lost a game, but they had a 42-foot yacht catch fire in the Vol Navy and burn to the ground and sink. So
what a bad day for
all
Tennessee.
Around, yeah, just not a good day for them. FSU comes out afterwards, and Willie Taggart, their coach, says we didn't hydrate properly. You know, yeah, I had all summer to figure that part of it out. Somebody should be fired if you didn't hydrate properly. But who had the worst loss for you?
I'm going with Tennessee. That has to go down as one of the worst losses in Tennessee football history. Georgia State went 2-10 last year. They also lost their last 6 road games. Yet they went into Neyland Stadium, one of the loudest stadiums, and beat an SEC team.
Yeah, and watching the game, manhandled them. And that's the thing that Sean Elliott, their coach, said, is after watching film of them, he said, you know, I think we can handle their defensive line. That's not a good look for Tennessee.
Terrible look.
And they're going to, you know, people are going to be jumping into the Tennessee River after that loss. Next up, of course, Tennessee wasn't the only team to have an embarrassing loss. South Carolina had one too, but the Missouri one was stunning. There were a lot of people on the Missouri bandwagon going into this year. I got to admit, I was one of them. I thought Missouri could have they've got so many good players, but what you have to remember is Missouri never plays well until they get to November. And to go out to Wyoming and lose, not a good look for Missouri.
Yeah, and when they started out, I thought Kelly Bryant looked great.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like everything just unfolded. Wyoming had over 400 yards in the rushing game, and yeah, they got manhandled too, to be honest.
Yeah, the funny thing is, Kelly Bryant ended up with great stats in the game, but they couldn't convert and couldn't make the big plays, and that's certainly something he's not used to, is losing. I mean, after being at Clemson, you don't lose a lot of games at Clemson, but and you certainly don't lose at Wyoming. Next up, the Alabama game was kind of an interesting game in that you're watching the first quarter, and you're kind of going, man, Duke's hanging in there with them, and then they score and they score, and then next thing you know, it's a blowout, and it's not interesting to watch. I got a feeling that's what Alabama's going to be this year. It's just kind of a team that's just going to grind you down and play good defense. But I will admit this, I did drop, in my AP poll, I dropped Alabama to 2, not because of the performance, but because of the loss of Dylan Moses for the year.
Yeah, that definitely was a big hit to their defense. But Alabama's Alabama. They are going to roll over every opponent they have. And yeah, it's not fun watching someone get beat 42-3. But I was proud of Duke for hanging in there that first quarter.
Yeah.
For sure.
I thought Duke in 35 might be a good bet. It wouldn't have been a good bet. Okay, that was our look around the Southeast. Now it's time for the starting lineup.
Let's get started with the starting lineup.
All right, we start out by talking about the hurricane hangover, and that's kind of a double entendre because obviously they've still got a little bit of a hangover for the things they did wrong against the Hurricanes of Miami. And they've been dealing with this hurricane. They've got loved ones on the coast. A lot of the players do. I mean, there was a point where you wondered if they were even going to play the game. If that hurricane took a left turn, there was going to be no game. So yeah. I got to think it's going to affect this Florida football team just a little bit.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, if it hits Wednesday, then there's not going to be a game. So hopefully they've been mentally preparing as if there was always still going to be a game, and hopefully that doesn't affect anything.
Yeah, we've been through a lot of them. You know, it seems like it happens every year now, and so some of these guys are kind of ready for it. They've been through. In fact, the seniors have been through, I think, 3 of them now, where you had a hurricane week. But that's we live in Florida, man. That's the way it is. Next up, if Florida lost that game to Miami, they were going to hear about it for 2 weeks. What I didn't know is if they won that game against Miami, they were going to hear about it for 2 weeks. And even on the Game Day show, Kirk Herbstreit's ripping Felipe Franks again, and I'm like, lay off, man. They haven't played a game, but it's just amazing how much grief, and that includes Florida dropping in the AP poll 3 spots.
For winning
at a neutral site against a rivalry.
Yeah, I was definitely very shocked when I saw them drop 3 spots, just because they still won. I don't think they should have dropped 3 spots, maybe 1, but definitely don't think 3. And when Felipe Franks was talking to reporters Tuesday night, he was telling them, he doesn't care what anybody else is saying because he got a good response from his coach, and he said that's the only opinion that matters. Although he's getting criticized by everybody else, that is the one opinion that matters. So I really like that he's keeping his head focused and not worrying about what other people are going to say about him, because people are always going to talk.
Well, he says that. I'm not sure that's true, but hopefully he does. He needs to kind of get his focus back as a football player and as a quarterback, as a leader on that team, instead of acting like a wide receiver sometimes. Next up, it'll be interesting to see what kind of crowd we have Saturday. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. I think the high is predicted at 95. It's Tennessee Martin, but it is the home opener, and they are going to honor Mr. Tubitz, which we'll get to in a minute. And I always like to say that the home opener of a season is kind of like a reunion. Like everybody, hey, I haven't seen you in 8 months. Let's we'll get together. So everybody gets excited about it. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of crowd it'll be and just how excited they get.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the great thing about football is that it always brings people together. So I definitely think everyone's going to show out. All the students at UF, they've been waiting for a home football season for 9 months now. So it's definitely going to be filled up, and it's going to be a great game.
Maybe this new influx of students will fill that place up, because it hasn't been happening. I'm hoping that they do. And they should go, and Gator fans should go. And you know what? One reason just to go is that they are honoring Mr. Tubitz, George Edmondson, who is as sweet a guy as I've ever met in my life. And I wrote this column in today's paper. With all the things they're doing, they're having his grandkids out there to do the Tubitz cheer. They're asking everybody to wear these yellow shirts, and I'm going to wear a yellow shirt. All the things they're doing to honor Mr. Tubitz. You know what they should do? What everybody should do, all Gator fans?
What's that?
Don't boo. That's why he started this. The team was getting booed back in the 40s, and he went out there and started the Tubitz cheer hey, support your team. Take a lesson from Mr. Tubitz in this one.
Yeah,
a little history lesson there for you.
I definitely wasn't around when Mr. Tubitz
No, I wasn't either. Come on.
But I am excited to see them honor him. It is definitely a great Florida tradition. And I think it'll be so adorable seeing his great-grandchildren out there. So it's going to be a good time. Yeah,
well, it's funny that Florida does have some great traditions and unique traditions. There's nobody else that has anything like Mr. Tubitz. Okay, so that was the starting lineup. We'll come right back with more Gainesville Game Day, and she's going to bring you a little what's trending on social.
Welcome back to Gainesville Game Day. Now it's time for Trending on Social.
What's hot and what's not? It's trending on social.
Have you ever wanted to play catch at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium after the game or watch the halftime show from the field? Well, now is your chance, because Florida is now selling tickets for the ultimate VIP Game Day experience. The prices for the experiences range anywhere from $25 to $350. They are selling out fast, so if you are interested, buy your tickets as soon as possible. Tennessee has had quite the week after an embarrassing loss to Georgia State last Saturday. Wide receiver Jordan Murphy retweeted a tweet making fun of the disastrous loss. The video shows a man dancing in a store with the caption, "Georgia State walking into Tennessee's athletic department to collect that $950,000. A few days later, Murphy announced he will be leaving the program along with defensive back Terrell Bailey. As we mentioned, Florida will be honoring George Edmondson Saturday, also known as Mr. Two-Bits. The Florida Gator football team wants to remind you to wear your Mr. Two-Bits shirt. Athletic Director Scott Strickland has his ready to go.
Okay, so that was trending on social, and now it's time for the Gator of the Week, and we're going to do something a little bit different here today. We are going to talk about what Gator needs to really step up.
Now it's time for the Gator of the Week.
As far as guys that need to kind of step up and play a little better, there's a lot of them. But I think that the two corners who are supposed to be all SEC, maybe all Americans, C.J. Henderson and Marco Wilson did not tackle well. The one play was alarming where they let DJ Dallas bounce off of them and run for a 50-yard touchdown. And obviously the penalties, Marco Wilson getting that late penalty when all you got to do is let him get tackled. He's not going to get the first down. So they got to play a little smarter. Now, I expect that from Marco. Marco is getting the rust off. He has missed almost all of last year, getting hurt in the second game with that torn ACL. So I think it's going to take him a while to get into it. But in a game like this, he should have – I want to see these guys get some picks, too. They should have a chance to do that because this is not a great passing team. But we'll see. We'll see if those guys in the secondary, they've got to be the leaders on that defense.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Felipe Franks. I think this week he really just needs to play smarter. He needs to be more disciplined. I definitely think he's going to come out really strong in this game because he is being criticized so much, and I think he wants to shut down that criticism. So I'm hoping he has a great game and expect him to play a lot better this game.
Yeah, and he should. This isn't a great defense. The defense that got torched last week against Northwestern State in the air, but. And, look, Felipe, I don't have that big a problem with some of the things you did on the field after the touchdown, stuff like that. But obviously a lot of people do. Just for one game, just tone it down. Tone it down, bro. Okay, that was Gator of the Week. We'll take a break here on Gainesville Game Day, and when we come back, we're going to tell Florida how to win. The Florida Keys are up next. All right, welcome back into Gainesville Game Day. Appreciate everybody for watching. It's time for the Florida Keys. Notice that dramatic pause there? That was really good.
And now, here are the Florida Keys, sponsored by Tioga Dental and Orthodontics.
Okay, well, the number one thing is it's always a good idea to stop the run. Coaches will tell you the key to the game is stopping the run. They've got a really good running back in Peyton Logan. 13 carries for 149 yards in their first game. Of course, that game was last Thursday night. But for the game today, Florida needs to shut that down, make them one-dimensional, and if you can do that, that's when we're talking about those two corners, that's when you get the picks, when they have to throw. You get them into a bunch of third and longs, and you can get some turnovers and get some short fields and put this game away early. So to me, one of the big keys, and it always is a key, every coach will tell you, is to stop the run. Peyton Logan's a talented guy. They've got to shut him down. Yeah,
I definitely think a key will be shutting down Peyton Logan. He was averaging 11.5 yards per touch. So if you take him out of the factor, it's going to be an easy one for the Gators.
Key number 2.
The second key to winning this game is definitely dominating on special teams. That's a thing UT Martin did last week. Their head coach, Jason Simpson, said they won the game because of special teams. Yeah, no question about it. They were really good. When you look at the game statistically last week, they kind of got blown away in the numbers, but they won it on special teams. And this is something that Dan Mullen has stressed and made a big deal. It's interesting, and I wrote about this in Thursday's paper. It's hard to remember with the hurricane, but in Thursday's paper, Clint McMillan, who played here at Florida, is one of their special teams coaches, and he was a really good special teams player under Urban Meyer here at Florida. So look, Florida's got great kickers. They need to continue to dominate special teams. They actually dominated the game what was it, a month ago? Against Miami on special teams. Do that again.
Key number 3.
All right, one of my keys is for Florida to take advantage of a weak secondary at UT Martin. They gave up 285 yards in the first half passing, and we're down in that game. Now, they did shut Northwestern State out in the second half. played a lot better defensively. But this secondary is very vulnerable, and of course, you've got all these great Florida receivers we keep talking about. Get them going, get them catches early, get everybody kind of into the game plan, get the ball to Kyle Pitts, get it to Kadarius Toney in different ways, and just take advantage of a secondary that you're going to have better athletes in.
Yeah, Pat, most definitely. And the strength of Florida's offense are the wide receivers. So if UT Martin allowed 285 yards in the first half to Northwestern State, they're going to have their hands full this week. That's for sure.
One would think so. And yeah, they've got it. Again, last week or 2 weeks ago, they only had 54 plays in the whole game. So they're going to get more plays in this game, and let's see what they can do with it.
Key number 4.
And the fourth key will definitely be to stay healthy today, so they're healthy going into their first conference game next week. It'll be a great time to give those freshmen some opportunities to play. So Dan Mullen can kind of see the depth that he has, but definitely staying healthy is always key.
Yeah, they didn't play a whole lot of those true freshmen. 2 weeks ago against Miami, a couple of them played special teams. So I'm curious to see what they can do. You know, they talked about the guys in the secondary. I think they're going to get a chance in this game, you would think. Florida's a big favorite. And not only that, but if you get more guys, more experience, that also keeps your other guys fresh. And you said it. I mean, next week is a team that beat them last year in Kentucky. So they need to have all hands on deck for that game. But again, as we all know, there's nothing you can do about injuries. Injuries happen, you know, they just are fluke. We go back to that Kentucky game of last year where Marco Wilson just stepped and planted, nobody hit him, and he tore his ACL. So I think it's really important that Florida get through this game healthy. They can't really do a whole lot about it, but except to sub freely and make sure guys don't get worn out.
Those were the Florida Keys. We'll be back on Gainesville Game Day with our picks.
All right, welcome back to Gainesville Game Day. We're going to do our picks here, and Little Miss Thing came in here and beat me the first week.
First week, and I already won.
I will say this, I did pick FSU, but I do have a Boise State t-shirt on order. It's time for the picks.
The Picks, sponsored by G. Bradley Insurance.
All right, and by the way, I went 3-2. I didn't have a terrible week, and I'm 5-2 for the season because I went 2-0 the first week and beat.
I just had a really good week.
You were good. I mean, you were picking some things I couldn't believe, but they all worked out for you. So this week it'll be interesting to see. We have 2 great games, but we'll pick all 5 games. The first game, of course, being Texas A&M at Clemson. A&M gave them a great game last year, and Kelly Mond threw all over that secondary. And I think A&M's better than they were a year ago. But this Clemson team is really good, obviously ranked number 1 in the country. And at home, I just don't see any way A&M can play with them. In fact, I think the spread is like 13 or 14 or maybe even higher than that. I think Clemson wins fairly easily.
I'm also going with Clemson. They played great on Thursday, and Trevor Lawrence does not look like he's slowing down. They've also won 16 straight at home, so I don't see them losing anytime soon.
No, not happening.
Another game I'm really looking forward to is LSU and Texas. I'm going to go with LSU on this one. Joe Burrow threw 5 touchdown passes on Saturday, and I'm not sure that Texas football is back just yet.
That, I tell you, people gave me a hard time when I picked Texas over Florida in the AP poll. I'm going with LSU, though. I just think, I don't know, it may have been a little bit of a pipe dream how well they played. I'm not sure they're as good as they played, but LSU is one of those mystery teams this year where I think they might be a playoff team. And if they go into Texas and win the game, and I'll tell you what, Greg Sankey will probably be at that game because he needs that. He needs this one. I mean, the SEC didn't do so well last week, but I like LSU in this game. I don't think Texas is all the way back. I agree with you. All right, our next game, and why I put this on here, I don't know. 2 0-1 teams playing, BYU at Tennessee. Well, you know why I put it on there. I want to see who she's going to pick, and then I'll go bet that because this game, though, I mean, Tennessee's got to win this game because they've still got an 8-game SEC schedule ahead. If they have any chance of going 6-6 and getting to a bowl, they have to win this game. And BYU wasn't terrible in their opening game, obviously against Utah. Utah is just a really good team. I'm just curious to see if BYU can push around Tennessee the way Georgia State did. They've got to take that as a possible that's got to fire them up to watch the tape of that game.
Yeah, most definitely. So which one are you picking?
I'm going Tennessee. Okay. I'm going with the Vols.
I'm also going with Tennessee. This is a must-win for this football program. If they lose this game, I've lost all hope for them. So for our next pick is going to be North Carolina versus Miami. I went with North Carolina last week, and they ended up winning, upsetting South Carolina. So I'm picking North Carolina again because I am Team Mac Brown this season.
Yeah, that was a bad loss for Will Muschamp too. The thing about this game, though, for me is North Carolina feels like they're going to have a hangover. Like everybody's patting them on the back, and you see this happen for a team that's been used to losing a lot, and they win a big game, and everybody's all excited, and they're talking about the game right up till Friday of game week, and then today you've got to go out and play a game. And look, I liked that Miami team when I saw them play in Camping World Stadium. In fact, I was going to stick them at the bottom of my top 25. It didn't work out for them, unfortunately, but I don't think it's really going to bother them. But I think that Miami team's really good. I think that Miami team's going to win its division and end up in the ACC championship game. So I'm going with the other Hurricanes. Okay, next up, our final pick, the University of Tennessee Martin Skyhawks, which you didn't know that was their nickname before this week, did you?
I actually did.
Did you?
I worked a game covering UT Martin last year.
There you go. How'd they look?
They lost in that game. So.
Well, they lost a lot of games last year. They were 2-9 last year against Florida, and of course, it's going to be an interesting game just to see how Florida handles this bye week, which is so unusual to have a bye week this early, and to see if the Gators can come out and correct the mistakes they made. That's going to be one of the things that I think we're all going to be watching. Does Felipe do anything dumb? Do they miss tackles still? Are they still struggling with other hitting guys out of bounds as they did in this game? Look, that was an intense game against Miami. This is not going to be as intense, but you still need to play with an awful lot of effort. Obviously, I'm picking Florida. I think they'll win fairly easily, and I think they just need to have a fun day in the Swamp.
I'm also picking Florida. I think this is going to be an easy win for them. They've received so much criticism that I think they're going to go into this game playing lights out.
Yeah, I think they will. It's going to be curious to see how well they play. And again, I go back to this weirdness of having an open week the first week. But hopefully everybody has a good time in the Swamp today.
Yeah, it'll be my first game in the Swamp. So I'm excited to see if the hype lives up to its name.
We'll do what we can. All right, that'll do it for another edition of Gainesville Game Day. You're still here. You haven't left me yet.
I'm not leaving.
Yeah, okay. So we'll be back next week. And, of course, it'll be a big week next week. Florida playing Kentucky, an SEC opener. This is the home opener today. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm Pat Dooley. She's Sarah Cardona. We'll see you next time.